Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, Flycast Partners. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us for the Power of Unified IT, a weekly series that we will be conducting over the next 5 weeks through the end of August, with today's webinar kicking it all off with Avanti's ISM, IT Service Management Solution, presented by Flycast Partners' very own Kyle Hamilton. Kyle is an experienced pre-sales senior solutions consultant with extensive experience in collaborating with clients on IT strategies and been in the IT industry for well over 25 years. Kyle has experience with a variety of IT tools and publishers ranging from ITSM, ITAM, and ITOM. He has experience from multiple types of positions in the industry, allowing him to have the bigger picture in mind when helping organizations with their long-term IT goals. Before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce our organization, Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We are founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in the IT space. We took the best ideas from the collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, enterprise service management, workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practices. Our professional services can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. Feel free to call us at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or visit us on our website at www.flycastpartners.com and chat with one of our IT experts, available Monday through Friday during our normal business hours. This is just one of the 5-part series that we're showing you today. I encourage you to check out our website for the upcoming webinars over the next few weeks, as well as webinars that we have going into the fourth quarter. Feel free to research our webinar schedule, as well as data sheets and white papers that may interest you on various tools and topics. During this series, we will flash a random code on the screen for a couple of seconds. When you see this code, simply type it back to the host privately through the chat. You privately type it back to me, and you'll receive a Starbucks gift card. You'll have 2 minutes to type the code in after it is shown. It will be invalid after that 2-minute time period. In addition, for all those that attend all of the 5 webinars in this series, you'll automatically be entered in a drawing for a brand new Oculus. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please type them in the Q&A section of this WebEx. We'll make sure that Kyle answers those questions live during our presentation today as time allows. We do have 45 minutes for today's presentation, so as long as your question falls within that time period, hopefully Kyle will be able to get it for you. I have just turned this show over to Kyle. Kyle, it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. And welcome, everybody, to the first of our 5 Pillars of Unified IT series. As Rich mentioned, today we are going to be talking about IT service management and Avanti service management specifically, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Avanti name, which is only about 2.5 years old. It is, although a new name, is based on a very old company, a little over 30 years plus, that is based out of Salt Lake City, and the leader in a couple of different spaces that we'll talk about. So it's really the combination of 2 main organizations, both Front Range Heat, which you might have heard of in the past, that had a service desk product for quite some time, and then Landesk, which has been the de facto leader in the endpoint management space for a very long time as well. Those 2 companies formed in February a couple of years ago to merge and become Ivanti. And as you'll see along the way, both of those organizations were very focused on acquisition of new technology. And those technologies are going to play into not only some of what we see today, but also in the following weeks as we then follow up and talk about endpoint management and identity management and some of the tools that are encapsulated in some of these technologies. In terms of Avanti service management, one of the things that we hear most now from customers is it's all focused on the customer experience, forgetting everything else and making that the number one goal is just making the customer experience a great one, because they're now battling against the digital age and the handhelds and tablets where everything is geared towards that customer. And so it's important to have a tool that can support, providing that kind of digital experience. A lot of that's based on the interface. A lot of that's based on having a unified approach to IT so that you can automate things, speed up the delivery of service, get answers to users faster, and free up staff time so that that experience is augmented or made better just from the pure speed as opposed to the interface alone. And we hear most often at the same time that it's not just focused on serving IT. It's focused on serving all aspects of the business, from HR to facilities to security and legal and on and on. Now, I mentioned one of the ways you can do that is through automation. And regardless of the reason you're looking to automate, whether it's speed, cost, quality, customer experience, it's important to have a tool that will not only support the automation, but enable you to automate things easily without having to get into complex scripting or development, so that it's something that you can accomplish on your own versus having to have consulting time or consulting hours on hand to be able to accomplish those things. And as far as making the end user experience more appealing, a lot of that reason is users, again, are not only used to being able to get responses and answers through their mobile devices quickly, but they often attempt to do so on their own. They'll attempt to go to the internet and Google answers and get things on their own first. And I hear time and time again that customers have self-service portals and they've built knowledge bases and they have service catalogs available, but users simply aren't using them. They're still deluged with emails and phone calls because that's still the path of least resistance. So it's important to be able to have that digital experience so that users not only can access things quickly and easily, which we'll talk about some ways Avanti can streamline that, but provide them with that same experience that they're used to in their daily lives. You can also extend that automation with Avanti using their Avanti voice plugin to enable you to do automated screen pops for your IT staff that are responding to calls. You can do skills-based routing of those calls and those screens so that you can make sure that they end up in the hands of somebody who's capable of responding to that user. You can also do self-service password resets. So it's not uncommon that password resets account for 20 to sometimes 50, 60% of service desk activity in one form or another. With the voice product and the automation into the service desk, those things can be handled over the phone via voice prompts by that end user, and you can log that activity, but doesn't have to involve or engage anybody to respond to that particular password reset. So there's a lot of capabilities in automating outside of the service desk. We'll also take a brief look at how you can get the important information back out of Avanti Service Management in the form of extraction dashboards and reports so that you can easily pull key metrics and get some actionable data back out of the system, which is the ultimate goal. And not only be able to do that on Avanti, but also be able to leverage that same extraction tool to report on other third-party applications. Now, I mentioned that this is the first of a series of 5 webinars over the next 5 weeks. Today, we're talking about Avanti Service Management. This gives you, for those that haven't already looked at the schedule, excuse me, a brief look at the next 4 weeks, as they'll address things like identity and endpoint management. And we'll be talking throughout the series about how what we're looking at today in service management really serves as the linchpin or kind of the centerpiece for a lot of what we'll be talking about in terms of unified IT, because what you're doing in identity management is going to want to be logged and recorded within the service desk. Same thing goes for the deployment of patches and applications using endpoint management. Those activities, whether automated or not, you always want to make sure those get recorded as incidents and requests and changes, whatever they should be within the service desk. And so you'll see in these intervening weeks how those tools play into that unified IT approach and show you how you can leverage your investment in multiple tools to really exponentially improve the level of service as well as drive efficiencies into IT. This just gives you a brief look, just to let you know that Avanti also offers some very creative licensing options. So if you are interested in any of the pillars that we'll be talking about in these intervening weeks, you can ask them about the options to be able to essentially license virtually everything in here for one license cost and have access to every tool within the Avanti portfolio. In terms of service management, there are 13 idle processes that are idle verified, pink verified out of the box with ISM. And this is the main piece where we'll also do a lot of the automation, which we'll talk about. We have a lot of customers that cross all types of verticals, from higher education to medical to healthcare and, of course, government and federal space. And many of those customers, as you can see, are achieving and overachieving their goals, whether it relates to driving efficiencies or whether it relates to improving that user experience and increasing user satisfaction using Avanti Service Management. So I'm going to be getting into the demonstration so we can take a look at what Avanti has to offer from that customer experience viewpoint. So we're going to start off looking at things first from the perspective of that end user. So Penny's going to log in to the service desk as that customer, and she'll have a self-service interface, and you see appears, and she can use this to search up knowledge base articles. If she's looking for some type of knowledge base response, she can go in and make a request. So let's say, for example, I want to go in, refresh my screen here. Or maybe that browser just doesn't like it. I'll just use Penny here. So she can use the search box right here at the top and simply start typing a question or search term. Email's not working. And as she begins to type, she'll see results in the form of FAQs, solution articles, how-tos. So she may find something and can readily just walk through the steps and resolve her own issue. And she can indicate, whether that article is helpful or not, which will factor into reports and dashboards and metrics on that knowledge base functionality. She also has the ability to submit requests and incidents through the self-service portal. So this is a view of the Avanti Service Management Service Catalog. All of the templates that you see within here for all the different groups, whether it be facilities requests, whether it be HR requests or the IT requests, these are all built into Avanti out of the box. You've got a little over 80 pre-built templates along with the workflow behind them to leverage right from day one. It makes it very easy to start rolling this out very quickly with just some minor changes and minor configuration updates, to blend it into your environment specifically. And if the user doesn't find their answer in that knowledge base article, they might find their answer somewhere within the service catalog. And it may be just in the form of, a template. So if that user has an email issue and they need to submit that ticket to the service desk, everything can be, pre-filled for them so that they can submit that easily and quickly, and they don't have to describe or categorize or prioritize things for themselves. We also use this, of course, to get all their status and updates for issues they've submitted in the past or things that are currently in progress. Now, in order to make that experience even a little bit more attractive and to drive them more towards self-service functionality, Avanti also offers what they call the Avanti Hub. And with the Avanti Hub, it provides a way for that self-service interface to become one step closer to the user so that it runs as a local desktop application, so that if they need to interact with the service desk in some way, they can simply pull up the hub right there on their desktop, and they can go in and look at status for an existing request. They can simply do the same thing they do in the portal and start typing a question or search term, and it's going to start, giving them results. And one of those results, may be a request out of that service catalog, in which case they can simply click it and it drives them straight to that request form, so they don't have to open up a browser, they don't have to navigate, they don't have to log in. Everything's essentially done for them and ready to go right there on the desktop, so that hopefully it's one step closer to becoming as easy as it is for them to type up an email and hit send. And one way that Avanti can take and help you automate is to be able to take process like an onboarding process and set this up so that not only can you define things like data requirements and SLAs, so how much lead time do you need, but also things like costing. So if you're going to be tracking any kind of bill back or just want to track costs internally related to services, there's built-in mechanisms to allow you to automatically capture those details and even, of course, associate those with selections that the user may be making in terms of, in this case, necessary or needed equipment and system access and licensing, all the specifics, so that you can keep a tab of exactly what those costs are. And that can also factor into the workflow and the automation and process that gets built in behind these requests, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. So the hub is a great way to, again, just make it a little bit easier by providing that little system tray icon, so the users can easily pop up and get their status or submit those tickets directly, work with the chatbot GC, and provide some automated features. So didn't understand me there, so that you can actually have a back and forth conversation directly with that application without having a physical user attached to it. And whenever they're done with the hub, they simply collapse it back, and it's there and available the next time they need it. Now, Sheldon, on the other hand, is part of the IT service desk staff. When he logs in, as opposed to the end user portal, he's got a defined dashboard. So Sheldon sees, all of his assigned requests, all of the tasks, incidents. And he's got a default here that shows things in kind of a tabular format, a record-based format. You also have dashboards designed that summarize and highlight the information and then provide the ability for users to drill down from here if they want to get back to that record list view versus having that displayed right up front, so that Sheldon, when he logs in, can easily find the requests and things that he needs to respond to very quickly. And if we take, for example, the request for, let's take our onboarding request. Keep getting rid of this one, collapse this window. There we go. So we'll take this employee onboarding request you see right up here. And I'll show you kind of what the process looks like Now, you'll notice right at the top, it automatically assigns my service level targets to the ticket, and it also automates my escalation points for me. So that once that ticket is created and it goes into that SLA queue, as this ticket ages, it's going to automatically begin to escalate and notify users throughout the process that I've set up. Now below, I can see all the details of the request that the user's made. And just to the right, a tab that will show me there's currently a pending approval. Now, you can set up approvals on virtually anything inside of service management. You can have approvals on requests, of course, approvals on things like changes, approvals on knowledge base articles. The same type of process can be set up across the board. You can also provide the users, like Sheldon, as an analyst, the ability to have a window of view into that process if you want. So there's a button right up here at the top that I've created that gives Sheldon the ability to open up and view what that process, in this case of this onboarding request, looks like, as well as where exactly this current request is within that process. So you'll see over on the left-hand side, I'll give him a little indication as to how it has, started, once submitted, and why we are at the current phase of the process. In this case, we're waiting on this approval, as you can see, and due to the dollar value of the request. And in this case, had that penny selected a couple of more options, maybe a little bit more expensive computer, maybe a second monitor or something along those lines, that would have put her over the limit, and then it would need a second level of approval. So users can pull this workflow up at any point, just to have visibility to see where it is, what's going to happen next, and how did that actually land at this point. Now, in this case, with this approval pending, it's actually assigned to Sheldon at the service desk, so Sheldon can actually open the approval and simply click the approve, deny buttons provided here. In which case, because it does not require that next level of approval because of that workflow, it's going to go ahead and then create and assign those automated tasks to the different groups and teams to start assigning those tasks to complete this onboarding request. Each of those users in turn can, will get typically an email notification. They'll log in and pull up their tasks. And when they pull open the task, they'll be able to see through a couple of different actions, either accept it, maybe reassign it to somebody else if they're busy, as well as go in and be able to add details and notes and activity to the request, and ultimately complete that task by inputting how much time they spent from start to finish working on it. And as they go through each of those users and each of those teams and respond to those requests, they'll each kind of follow that same process to go in and say, I'll take it, they work on it, they complete it, they enter in the time it spent, and as they go through each of those tasks, you'll also see that it's going to not only log that time, but actually create labor costs related to that time based on the user's billing rate. So as these tasks get closed, the last one in sequence in this case, now you'll see a couple things. Each one of the tasks now shows as being completed. I've also got 3 matching cost items related to each of those tasks that's been tabulated here. It's taking those, that time input for each of those tasks and charging that to their bill rate. So it comes up with not only cost of the goods that the users requested in the form of hardware and software, but also the labor costs associated with it. And if you'll notice up at the top, it's automatically then captured the SLA, stopped the timers at this point, marked my status as fulfilled, and then via the workflow, sending out notifications to the users, letting them know that, the onboarding request has been done. And that's all, everything from start to finish, from driving the SLAs to the automated notifications, to automatically calculating the costs and, sending out that final notice, all part of simple drag and drop workflows that can be built. Now, in terms of incident management, let's take Penny's email ticket here.
And when you have a moment, Kyle, we do have a whole bunch of questions.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, fire away.
Okay, the first question, can we integrate some of these dashboards into SharePoint or MS Teams?
Yes. I'm assuming, if I understand the question right, you're talking about like taking a part of the interface and making it a frame or a part of another website. And the answer is yes, you can build this. This is all the language behind all of the interface is all HTML5. So this is all web-based and web-driven. So it can easily be, blended into other websites as frames or pages.
Next question, can you set up multi-level approvals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the case of the service request that we just talked about, it has multiple levels of approvals, and we'll look at this in a few moments when we look at the admin perspective of that same workflow. There were some if-then blocks in there that were looking at the dollar value of the request, and ultimately, so even though it had multi-level workflow in it, the additional levels weren't called for because the user, in this case Penny, didn't request $4,000 worth of equipment. Had she made it to that dollar level, it would have instantly become a multi-level approval based on the dollar value that she requested.
Next one, how does Avanti differentiate incidents and service requests?
Good question. So it differentiates them based on the ITIL definition. So an incident is anything that is broken or needs fixing. A request is not related to nothing's broken, nothing needs fixing, something just needs to be done. They need you to do something, provide some sort, set up a new printer or, help me, set up a cubicle for my new employee I just hired, things like that. And so incidents are something's broke, my laptop's not working, my keyboard's not responding, things like that.
Next, and this is actually from the same folks, our organization has had a hard time promoting to our users the difference. They seem to submit service requests when it's an incident and vice versa. Can you recategorize these types? Yes. And in a lot of cases, because I hear that a lot, it's difficult to make users, choose, do I submit a request or is it an incident? And so a lot of that can be resolved and fixed by how you build and expose that service catalog. In the case of the Avanti service catalog, we mixed requests and incidents all together. So the user's not, when they go to that self-service portal and start searching that catalog, they don't have to, you saw the navigator bar where it had IT services and HR services and facilities. They don't have to click on any of those. Most of the time, they'll use the search bar at the top and simply say, email issue or can't get to, SharePoint. And as they're typing, it's going to be bringing up both requests and incident templates at the same time. And, they're going to see one that says, submit incident for I can't get to SharePoint, and another one's going to be set up a new SharePoint site. So the SharePoint site's the request,
the incident is I can't get to SharePoint, and they're making that choice more or less logically based on usually just the title of the request, how simple you make the naming convention of those requests. And it may be as simple as, call the request, I can't get to SharePoint. Because a lot of times that makes it real easy to understand for users versus trying to put, something flashy or, nice sounding or nice looking on there and help them navigate a little bit better.
Okay, for SLA timeframes, what kind of notification do you offer agents? Email only, or can we send MMS text, multimedia messaging service text?
You can send MMS messages. It does take additional software to do that for us to be able to connect in and be able to send those MMS messages. And you can send SMS messages out. When I'm talking about the MMS, we're talking about the, being able to have different media type formats. That would require an external, plug-in that actually does that, or where service management is simply passing the data to it, and it's converting it and handling the MMS piece. And in regards to SLAs, those notifications are automated. So as you'll see within, my email, when I look at notifications I get from the service desk, you'll see in here that, as it reaches those escalation points in the SLA, this is the point where it starts to automate, notifications to their manager and to the director, and, starts branching out more and more so that things don't fall through the cracks.
Okay, that completed all the questions. Folks, keep sending your questions, and as long as we have time, Kyle will answer, and Kyle will let you get back to your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Rich. I also want to talk a little bit, as we're looking at this incident, about two things. Number one, we looked at knowledge search from a user standpoint. Same thing is equally important for your staff. So you can easily click on a button within that incident form and have it automatically take that content and search that knowledge base, both knowledge articles that you may create, as well as other problems, incidents, things that you've dealt with in the past, so that if you've got resolutions, buried within those articles, you can easily take and use those to resolve, that particular issue, just by following the same resolution through here. Now, you also have the ability to leverage the CMDB, so that when users are contacting the service desk, you have the ability to easily look up all of their devices, so that one or more, depending upon the situation, can be linked directly to the incident, so that you're building history and can report on that. It'll allow you to pull up, some high-level configuration details that you can set up, so whatever may help them from a troubleshooting and support standpoint with the customer. You can put that right there on a little pop-up window so that they have quick access to those details. And if they need something more, they also have the ability to go take a look at that particular asset or item and look at additional details, whether it be in the form of other configuration information, hardware and or software, patching, things like that, so you understand exactly what's running on the device and what versions and things like that, so you can easily see those things, maybe even tracking licensing for different applications that are installed, as well as being able to see important information like connectivity and dependencies and impacts between devices and applications. And this is the type of stuff that can also provide valuable troubleshooting information to be able to understand whether you're dealing with a local issue or something that's going to be impacting additional users who may just be on the front end, as well as being able to see, maybe those dependent devices or applications, their status and what kind of, activity is out there in terms of incidents and problems and changes that may be impacting or causing this user's current issue. So it gives you a lot of information related to that device that you're supporting. You also have the opportunity, when you talk about endpoint management and some of the integrations using Unified IT going forward, how you can then leverage the ability to set up deployment, re-imaging or re-provisioning a PC. If it becomes a problem, just wipe it and throw a new image down on it. Or if there's a problem and you need to jump into it, you want to open up a remote control session, or it needs a patch that needs to be deployed because you can look at the software and see that hasn't been updated. So that's where you can move one step further than simply taking in information and then passing it on to those admins and engineers who then log into whatever that desktop or endpoint management tool is and take that action. We can actually build those pieces directly into the service desk and allow level 1 staff, first line staff to be able to execute those fixes and resolve those issues and drive first call resolution percentage up much, much higher. Now, in terms of links between the different modules, I mentioned the 13 different ITIL modules. You also have easy links between them, both through the tabs at the bottom. You can also create little toolbar buttons to do the same. So if this user's email problem or issue is related to something bigger, then we can create a problem and assign it to the problem management team to investigate, so that they can look and hopefully figure out what the resolution is. And that will create that linked problem that's identified and can be visualized here at the bottom. You can also then go and take a look at that problem along with its details. It's going to have its own journal and activity, its own workflow associated with it. And of course, users are going to be tracking and recording their time spent and all the details in here. And ultimately, once they figure out what this is, then they're going to want to take this and be able to push this into a change request to be implemented. So it's where we can go in and say, I want to take, do I have it? No, I don't have it up here. I have to do it through my tab. I thought I created one. No, I have to do it through my tab here. So if I want to create a change request now, and I can do that with just a standard change request form, and it's going to bring some details over. I can also create templates for different types of changes, emergency changes, or patch updates for servers that you do on a regular basis, so that most of the details can already be in there, and you might have to just put in a few specifics as you create that change. And now I have a linked change request to the problem going back to the incident. Now my change request, I'll see all of the information related to those problems and incidents that it's tied back to, of course. Now I also have the ability to look at things like risk level and change schedule. But you'll notice that because I'm logged in here as Sheldon, just a lowly service desk analyst, while I have view access, I have view only access. I really can't do anything other than take a look at it unless it was assigned to me or I had a higher level of permissions. So at this point, what we'll do is we'll log Sheldon out, and we're going to go to our third view, which is going to be our administrator. And for our admin, we'll go back right back to that same change, and we'll follow up on it. And then as soon as we're done with that, we're going to take a look at the dashboard extraction tool that I mentioned real quickly. So here, if I jump to my change section, and I can see my email down change we just logged. Now, as I'm logged in as an administrator, I have access to the same tab that Sheldon did, but now I can actually go in and respond. And based on my response to the questions that I've laid out here, it's calculating an overall risk assessment in the background, as you'll see up at the top. So each change that's being input can be, evaluated based on kind of the same overall, risk metrics. That way, when you're logging changes and you're linking those assets directly to those change requests, then as you're doing that, not only is it, again, creating the history for that device, but it's also creating, for each one of these devices, it's adding them to the change schedule, which will show you any kind of defined blackout windows or change windows where things need to be happening so it doesn't cause a problem. So that way, when you're scheduling these changes to occur, you're not getting rejected or bumping up against a blackout window. And your users will be able to see and publish this for anybody to see at forward schedule, kind of month, day, week at a view, at a glance, so that they can see what kind of changes are upcoming, scheduled maintenance activity, new releases, things like that. And these can all be, through the workflow and automation, pushed out to external applications, as well as other tools like extraction. So what I wanted to show you here is for all the incident data, change data, and problem data that knowledge-based article data that you build, extraction gives you an easy way to dive in that anybody can do in 5-10 minutes and be able to pull a report together or pull a dashboard together. You can see it covers all the Avanti tools, not just Service Manager, but also the additional tools like endpoint management and identity. And users can come in here real quickly, and if they're looking for service desk metrics, they can grab that service desk dashboard and throw it up so that they can easily start diving into that information. If they wanted to get into, they have the Avanti voice piece, and they wanted to start looking at statistics related to time to answer and how time on hold and things like that, they can easily grab those. You can also use this for third-party reporting. So you can use this to jump out into things like, if you're doing any kind of compliance or patching with SCCM or otherwise. Now I can also use this to pull in data from those third-party tools and be able to pull that information up. And all the dashboards are active. So if I'm looking at a time slice like this, trending over time, for example, and I just want to focus down on July the 21st, here's an example. I can just filter it to that one day, within that window. And as I go in and I filter these components, that may have been a bad choice. Let me show you the service desk. As I filter it, what it does is it updates all of the other components on the screen at the same time, so that when I'm looking at how many VIP tickets were opened and what the count was for each particular group, I'm looking at just that day that I selected. If I choose to look at another, then I can just update it by grabbing the next. So that way, as you're drilling in or trying to focus down on one particular day of the month, you can make sure that all of your other summary views and the components that you've put on your dashboard are also updating to reflect whatever it is you're focusing on. Then you also have the ability to drill down, of course, into the records if you want those details. But that way, it gives you the flexibility to be able to determine not only what you want on your dashboard or within your report, but what kind of drill down functionality do you want to provide the user. And this is a great opportunity for what most customers will do is use this flat screen, overhead, projector, whatever the case may be. And this becomes, one of those views that scrolls in that service desk or support area so that people coming through can easily look up to see if there's anything of concern. And I know we're right at the end of our time, so I hope this gave you a brief glimpse at some of the capabilities of Avanti Service Management, as well as extraction. You're very likely to see extraction come back up in the next 4 weeks as they talk about identity and endpoint, because again, there's a lot of content that's designed to report out of there as well. So Rich, with that, I will flip this back over to you for closing.
I do have one or two more questions if you're up to taking them.
Sure.
Okay, the first one, in terms of best practices, how does Avanti assist with promoting, ticketing, and updating knowledge articles and information with their IT service teams? Oftentimes, influencing a culture of real-time updating and reporting can be difficult. In my organization, agents resolve issues but wait till the end of the day to update the tickets, and these response times are incorrectly reported.
Right. Now, the first part of that about how does it promote and I think if I understood it, Rich, help me. I think it said about promoting knowledge base creation. Did I get that?
Promote ticketing and updating knowledge articles and information with their IT service teams. Yep.
In terms of promoting it, I say what most customers do, and really the only thing to do, is to have those reports and dashboards. To be able to challenge them. If it's a response time, in some cases, customers use these, on those dashboards and overheads on purpose, not for others to see, but for the people logging the tickets themselves to see, because it can become a challenge. I can tell you, because I do this with stupid little games on my iPhone all the time, where I see somebody's gotten ahead of me, little bars a little bit further than mine, and I work twice as hard to get my bar a little bit higher than theirs. And it's a game I don't even care about. But it's just a challenge type response. And so a lot of times putting these graphs and dashboards up is a good way to drive users, to show how many articles has each user created. Put them on a graph and make it a competition. I've seen customers do things, as simple as, an extra 30 minutes for lunch once a week for the person who creates the most articles, to, a gift certificate to Chili's once a month, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be a lot, but little things like that can be used to drive, behavior that you want and create a culture of, good, healthy competition.
Okay, and this will be the last question, and we're shutting it down. Are the analytics that help understand which articles or service catalogs are being used the most, or which users are using which knowledge articles the most?
I'm not sure I caught the question on that one, Rich.
Are there, as in people there, analytics that help understand which articles or service catalogs are being used the most, or which users are using the knowledge articles the most?
Absolutely. There's a lot of reports out of the box, and there are multiple levels of dashboards out of the box, and they're all designed to show you both the life cycle of the articles, as well as things like views, usage, ratings, all of these things, all those types of metrics. What are the users saying? Are they saying it's helpful? Are they typing in text comments? If you're asking them for, scores, what are the feedback scores, 1 to 5? All of those things can be and of course the views and usages. How many times has somebody used it to resolve an issue, and how many times has it been looked at but never used? Because those types of things will point you. If you've got an article that somebody's 150 people have looked at and it's been used once, then there's a big chance that there may be something wrong with that. Or why did the other 149 not use it? So things like that are out of the box that'll help you, pinpoint and help curate that knowledge base. All right,
ends it. And Tara Lynn in particular said that it was a great answer on the competition. So great interaction, audience. Great interaction from all of you. I appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy day to join us. And Kyle, thanks for kicking this off. I mean, they really have some big shoes to fill going forward.
Oh, thank you very much, Rich. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day.
All right. Take care, folks.